By now, you most definitely have heard of the ongoing drone invasion overtaking the skies of New Jersey and several other states across the country.
Beginning in mid-November, people across New Jersey have reported seeing drones, either in group clusters or hovering individually, riddle the night sky and especially over counties in the northern New Jersey area. During this time, stories of strange drone activity spread rapidly, with eyewitnesses and law enforcement agencies relaying similar descriptions of the said drones, claiming many of the drones as being similar in size to SUVs, being able to withstand heavy winds, would sometimes exhibit loud humming noises, and would bizarrely switch off their lights when spotted by onlookers and simple observers alike. The frequency at which the drones operate has also been especially noteworthy, with some experts stating an average of 92 drone sightings reported per night, and that such sightings almost exclusively occur during the hours of 6 to 11 p.m., with some nights seeing a whopping 180 drone sightings being reported by town residents or local authorities. Staggeringly, this would amount to roughly 3,000 mysterious drone sightings being reported in the New Jersey-New York area between mid-November and the time of this video's release. The first reported sightings on record occurred on the 18th of November over Morristown, New Jersey, located just over 30 miles west of New York City. The drones, which appeared to be flying in a coordinated manner, hovered over the Morristown Town Hall building, while a New Jersey State Police helicopter was reportedly present. According to the Morris County Prosecutor's Office, the exact drones spotted on the 18th were last seen en route to the Mount Olive area before disappearing, with much of the details surrounding this particular case coming from law enforcement officers on the ground, while the drones made themselves known.
Despite the large number of sightings, in the first few days of the phenomenon, some people merely brushed the sightings off as nothing more than a case of mass hysteria or simply a prank that just became too big for its own good. Yet at the same time, more and more questions started to go unanswered, and it soon became apparent that the cases may be more than just hysteria when the FBI and other government agencies got involved.
Just days later, between the 22nd and 25th of November, the Federal Aviation Administration issued its first temporary flight restrictions in response to growing drone sightings over key military installations and bases, such as the Picatinny Arsenal Military Manufacturing Facility in Morris County, New Jersey. Established in 1880, the Picatinny Arsenal Army Base is largely responsible for the research and development of small arms ammunition, as well as advanced weapon systems, even creating custom-made devices for special military purposes. Drones also began appearing over another ammunition depot in New Jersey, that being the Naval Weapons Station Earl in Monmouth County, a major Navy hub that allows for heavy loads of ammunition and explosive munitions to be loaded onto naval ships in an area far away from highly populated areas. Strikingly, both the Naval Weapons Station Earl and Picatinny Arsenal bases are some of the most strategic bases on the East Coast, a fact that would go on to unnerve residents from across New Jersey and local politicians, who began demanding answers regarding the bizarre drones.
The sightings of the mysterious drones left no area untouched, whether civilian structures or military bases that may hold sensitive information for anyone trying to observe them. But while the actual sightings were seemingly everywhere and abundant in number, the same really cannot be said for explanations.
By November 26th, the drone cases became so rampant, a series of drones spotted over Branchburg Township in Somerset County, New Jersey, even prevented a medical transport helicopter from transporting a seriously injured car crash victim to a nearby hospital as the drones were present in the helicopter's landing zone. Nearby over the Raritan River, groups of drones were also consistently spotted on a nightly basis, adding greater unease as drone cases continued to skyrocket in number across the state. By early December, drone mania showed no signs of stopping, and on December 3rd, an interesting contradiction emerged from local and federal government agencies. On that day, the Morris County Prosecutor's Office, previously reporting on the very first major drone sightings that occurred on November 18th, issued a statement consistent with future reports released by the federal government, stating that the drones pose, quote, no known risk to public safety. However, practically simultaneously, the FBI, who up to then had investigated the drones for several days, asked the public to report any information regarding the drone sightings, especially along the Raritan River and other areas, to the agency, hinting that, at least for the FBI and equivalent agencies, the drones raised a degree of serious concern for reasons unknown to the public. By the 8th of December, drone sightings began to bleed into other states such as New York and Pennsylvania, with both New York City and Philadelphia seeing sightings similar to that which continue to sweep through New Jersey. In Bucks County, Pennsylvania, located outside of Philadelphia, residents reported a rash of drones hovering 1,000 feet over the Solebury Township Police Department building, reminiscent of similar drone activity over government buildings, police stations, and military bases across New Jersey. On December 11th, a closed-door meeting was held at the New Jersey State Police headquarters in which lawmakers and town mayors were notified that investigators that had closely followed the drone phenomenon using advanced equipment and methods were strangely unable to electronically detect the drones, despite the enormous volume of sightings, leaving the lawmakers and mayors incredibly frustrated. According to the investigators assigned to track the drones are not emitting any radio frequencies, thus preventing the drones from being tracked by even the most advanced of equipment. Officials also claimed that the drones are not being flown by the US military or major companies such as Amazon. Yet despite such apparent findings, the same officials, as well as the FBI and other agencies, are still offering more questions than answers. Additionally, the US Coast Guard continues to monitor the Jersey Shore for any offshore base that may house such drones, a possibility some believe may be viable due to a shocking claim made by a law enforcement officer from Ocean County, New Jersey, in which an estimated 50 drones had apparently emerged from the ocean and flew towards the New Jersey mainland, making their way to the Seaside Heights area on the Jersey Shore. That same day, Pentagon Deputy Press Secretary Sabrina Singh stated local and state authorities are to use force against any drones that they feel pose a threat to military installations. On December 15th, New York Governor Kathy Hochul announced that the state of New York, as a result of the rampant drone sightings, would deploy a drone detection device provided by the federal government, with Hochul demanding Congress to pass legislation to give states greater power in tackling the drones directly, coinciding with growing calls for the drones to be shot down. The following day on the 16th, the FBI released a statement warning the general public against pointing lasers or shooting down suspected drones, arguing that doing so would jeopardize manned aircraft, as well as infrastructure and lives on the ground. Lastly, on December 19th, the FAA once again issued a flight restriction, this time completely banning drones from flying over parts of New Jersey and other states, with the ban being in effect until the 17th of January 2025.
This given timeline from the 18th of November to mid to late December does offer a great deal in terms of individual sightings and general details. But even after well over a month of mysterious drone sightings, the general public is still left with the same slew of unanswered questions that it began with in November. But while the drone phenomenon currently unfolding in the final weeks of 2024 is so far unexplainable, and with the national and now global reaction to the sightings reaching ever greater heights, this does remind me of a number of similar incidents that we have seen in the past, whether concerning New Jersey or throughout the entire country.
The first incident that comes to mind is the infamous War of the Worlds broadcast of 1938, in which on Halloween Eve of that year, a young Orson Welles would host a radio adaptation of H.G. Wells's iconic 1898 novel entitled War of the Worlds, a novel documenting an alien invasion of Earth set in London. In Wells's adaptation, he changed the setting of London to the small town of Grover's Mill, New Jersey, and formatted the radio play in the form of a news broadcast being held during an alien invasion happening in real time, with the plot being told through news bulletins detailing developing events, actors portraying journalists, and no commercial interruptions to add layers of realism to the overall radio program, which would ultimately depict a horrific alien invasion as it unfolded. Before the show began, Welles made sure to announce that the show the listening audience was about to hear was entirely fictional, and was produced to reflect the Halloween season given its release date on the day before Halloween. However, some listeners who had tuned in later would miss Wells's disclaimer and actually believe that aliens had invaded Earth, given how convincing the radio play was. According to reports, an estimated 6 million listeners had tuned into the radio program, with many allegedly convinced that the events in the fictional radio play were true, causing waves of mass hysteria throughout the country. Though it is disputed as to how widespread such a mass hysteria was, as the actual number of those that typically tuned into Wells's Mercury Theater radio program were typically low. Outraged, newspapers and reporters would bombard Welles with fiery questions and disapproval in the aftermath of the show, with Welles issuing a public apology. Still, the aftermath would cement Orson Welles as a titan of the arts who would later direct Citizen Kane, Touch of Evil, and a slew of other film masterpieces that would launch him in the league of the greatest film directors of all time. The New Jersey township of West Windsor unveiled a monument to the event in 1988, 50 years after Orson Welles' War of the Worlds broadcast made history. The ongoing public response to the odd drone sightings is also very reminiscent of the 1957 launch of the Sputnik satellite by the Soviet Union, the world's first artificial satellite to be launched successfully into space. Following the end of the Second World War and the beginning of the Cold War between the United States and the Soviet Union, both superpowers pushed the limits of technological innovation, by developing nuclear weapons and other advanced systems that could either weaken or destroy the other, and ultimately each other. The creation and launch of the Sputnik satellite, a simple satellite weighing just shy of 200 pounds and with a diameter of nearly 23 inches, which would orbit the Earth over 1,400 times and traveled an estimated 43 million miles, sent fearful shockwaves through the American public, who grew fiercely concerned about the technological advancements made by the Soviets. To the public, in theory, if the Soviets could launch anything into Earth's orbit, even that of a satellite, then the possibility of sending nuclear weapons to space became a very real threat, prompting the US government to form NASA and pour large quantities of funding and resources into science as a means to match, and ultimately overtake the Soviets in space travel and military capability, an objective that would spur the start of the space race between the two nations. More recently, on the night of January 5, 2009 in Morristown, New Jersey, eyewitnesses began reporting sightings of strange red lights in the sky over the town, with the sightings lasting from the 5th of January to the 17th of February of that year, with the sightings also largely being concentrated in the eastern Morris County towns of Florham Park and Morris Plains. Soon after, it was revealed that the alleged UFO sightings were part of an elaborate hoax executed by Joe Rudy and Chris Russo, who attached red lights onto balloons before launching them into the air to overtake the night sky on several nights. The hoax was orchestrated as a social experiment to discredit UFO cases, and also, according to them, to expose the unreliability of eyewitness testimonies, with the balloon launches resulting in Russo and Rudy being charged for violating community ordinance laws and being sentenced to 50 hours of community service work.
Still, despite there being similarities between the drone sightings and the outlined 3 incidents, the ongoing drone phenomenon is very different. So far, as of late December 2024, nobody has come out to claim responsibility for these drones, and according to investigators, they are extremely difficult to track, leaving us, at least in terms of the time being, with theories to go by. The following are 4 theories that I feel could serve as placeholders for the truth, whatever the truth may be, whether totally harmless or disturbing.
The UFO theory. Naturally, with almost any unexplained occurrence either on a small or major scale regarding the skies, theories of extraterrestrials and crafts from other worlds begin to inhabit the minds of onlookers and observers when other explanations are absent. Such is the case with the 2024 New Jersey drone invasion, with many people online and elsewhere simply referring to the drones as UFOs. And in a sense, they would be correct. The acronym of UFO, or Unidentified Flying Object, simply refers to an object in the sky that has yet to be identified. In the case of the drones, such a description is accurate as so far, many of the drone sightings are of unidentified drones that cannot be properly detected or tracked, raising questions as to who is operating them and where they come from. Yet given the close association between the acronym of UFO and extraterrestrials, people would assume that the drones are therefore alien in origin and nature, but I simply do not see this being the case. When one zooms closely to the drones, they would find that many of them resemble miniature planes or other objects utilized by humans on a daily basis, and the movements are in line with known drone activity. Observations and reports alike also attest that the drones, or at least the overwhelming majority of them, are unmanned aerial drones with an earthly origin. However, while the drones are more than likely non-extraterrestrial, New Jersey does possess a rich history of truly unexplained UFO sightings that are infinitely more anomalous. One prime example is the 1966 Wanahue Reservoir UFO case in which, on January 11th of that year, a patrolman named Joseph Sisko received a call from a dispatcher informing him of an army of callers from towns all across northeast New Jersey who claimed to have seen a bright light akin to a fire shoot across the region, with the words flying saucer being included in the dispatch. To Sisko's amazement, a large light the size of a softball began pulsating and changing colors, with the object being designated as much bigger than a star and hovering over the Wanahue Reservoir. Continuing its flight, the ball of light had shifted from white to red to green, and then back to white. Meanwhile, Sisko's radio began to malfunction, and word soon spread of the object emitting a bright beam into the reservoir, piercing a large hole into the ice of which the object had done for half an hour. In terms of photographic evidence, precisely 5 photographs of the mysterious object were taken, depicting the incredible beam. Yet the photographer went unidentified for 50 years until being identified as Claude Coutand. Eventually, the UFO quickly rose up to the sky and vanished. astonishing the hundreds of people that saw the otherworldly craft. Soon, the United States government claimed that the fantastic sight was that of a helicopter shining its beam of light onto the reservoir, a claim immediately dismissed by the devout witnesses. The copycat theory. Just days into the New Jersey drone phenomenon, other states from across the country began to report mass mysterious drone sightings of their own, with sightings even occurring on the West Coast, in states such as Oregon and California. Given the rapid spread of drone sightings across the country, as well as the different types and models of drones seen over the towns and cities of New Jersey, some have suggested that copycats in possession of drones are looking to capitalize on the hysteria and media attention produced by the unexplained drone sightings, deliberately flying drones close to military bases and other areas, causing a continued fueling of media reports concerning the drones. Case in point, in Boston, Massachusetts on the 14th of December, 2 men were arrested for allegedly conducting a hazardous drone operation near the Logan International Airport, with a third suspect fleeing by boat, according to the Boston Police Department. In another case, this time involving a drone crash in Morris County around December 13th, the wreckage of a low-grade toy drone was found in a residential suburban backyard, exponentially smaller than the SUV-sized drones reported to be flying over the state, but could still be evidence of copycat drone operators trying to cash in on the hype and attention currently being produced by the drone phenomenon. To this end, with arrests and wreckages on record, it becomes safe to assume that copycats are helping fuel the phenomenon, even if it means playing games of dangerous risk. The foreign adversary theory. Almost just as universal as the UFO theory is the foreign adversary theory, a notion that formed as soon as the drones first began to appear over critical military bases and manufacturing plants, such as Picatinny Arsenal. Given the presence of drones over military installations, airports, and government buildings, many began to develop the idea that the drones are operating under the auspices of a foreign government, who may be seeking to gather intelligence on strategic locations throughout the country. And while it may not seem like it to some, New Jersey is easily one of the most strategic states in the country. Sandwiched between the 2 metropolitan centers of New York City and the city of Philadelphia, New Jersey is the most densely populated state, home to roughly 9 million residents, various different industries, and a shoreline with the Atlantic Ocean that makes it a valuable naval hub. As a result, New Jersey would be an ideal candidate for a state to spy on or launch intelligence-gathering drones on, at least in theory. The crux of this theory comes from a statement made by New Jersey Representative Jeff Van Drew, who suggested that the drones are of Iranian origin and stem from an Iranian mothership that took off from Iran and is now invading New Jersey's airspace. The claim was immediately shot down by the Pentagon, who argued that no evidence substantiates such a claim, although a brief look into the Iranian drone program is warranted. As of 2024, the country of Iran has one of the most advanced and largest attack and military drone arsenals in the world, with one of Iran's signature drones used in operations internationally, the Shahed drone, being arguably the most famous. The Shahed drone largely operates as a kamikaze drone, striking targets at a rapid speed which inevitably causes devastating damage. However, the drone's flight range is approximately that of 2,500 kilometers, or 1,600 miles, much smaller than the distance between Iran and the United States, or even between Iran's international bases and the US. And with no evidence found thus far of Iranian drone launch pads and bases anywhere near New Jersey's shores, the theory of Iranian drone flights overtaking New Jersey is a feeble one. Still, given the prevalence that drones have in various different industries ranging from photography to agriculture and military activity, some find the foreign adversary theory as potentially true, with cases such as the 2023 Chinese spy balloon incident coming to mind, in which a high-altitude balloon, originating from China, flew across Canada and the United States, with many speculating that the balloon was a reconnaissance device aiming to gain information, with the balloon eventually getting shot down by a US fighter jet.
The fourth and last theory may be the most unsettling, but it is worth pondering.
The let's just not talk about it theory. With well over a month passing since the initial sightings, many are still asking the same questions now as they did during the first drone sightings, and naturally, the more time passes and the more sightings are reported, the greater the hunger for explanations and clarity becomes. In short, this theory states that the lack of information the public has access to in regard to the waves of mysterious drone sightings over New Jersey and elsewhere is a result of a carefully crafted scheme from the government, in that they may know more than they are letting on, and therefore are either being dishonest or intentionally vague. One prominent argument raised by some is the idea that the drones, or at least the most unexplainable of drone sightings, are simply the results of secretive government tests of advanced unmanned aerial systems to be used in war or other purposes deemed appropriate and necessary by the military, the federal government, or even major companies with a vested interest in global affairs. Unsurprisingly, there is a well-documented history of the government flying experimental aircraft and aerial vehicles over civilian airspace, and especially from the US Air Force. In 1986, outside of a mountainous area near Bakersfield, California, a mysterious aircraft had crashed, which prompted local newspapers to speculate on a suspected top-secret jet crash, covered up by the military since the military had ordered for a large area and a section of airspace to be closed off. The public intrigue into the crash became so great, the Air Force was forced to declassify the crashed jet as the Lockheed F-117, a stealth fighter jet with internal bomb capabilities, as well as an especially alien design, with a coating of radar-absorbent material to avoid detection that for years prior to the crash had been kept secret from the public, with its unconventional design prompting people to mistake it for an alien UFO. One problem with the experimental aircraft notion is that, unlike the SR-71 Blackbird and similar planes which were flown across the western deserts of the US during their trial runs and testing, the unexplainable drone cases have predominantly occurred over New Jersey, previously noted as the most densely populated state in the country, that finds itself in between New York City and Philadelphia. If one's aim was to fly experimental aircraft and simultaneously keep such crafts hidden, why fly them over a state with such a high population density and levels of urbanization? Regardless, many feel that the government is not being completely truthful in terms of addressing the drone invasion, feeling especially frustrated that investigators are apparently unable to track the drones, and that the federal government has so far failed to provide state and local governments with solid answers on the true nature of the drones in question, spawning theories that the government may be hiding something. Case in point, even during the major closed-door meeting between investigators, government officials, and the mayors of towns plagued by the drone sightings, the lawmakers and mayors were left frustrated due to the lack of transparency given to them on the drone phenomenon. With one New Jersey lawmaker even referring to the meeting as worthless, state senators and governors alike have also called for greater action and attention be directed towards the drone sightings, feeling left in the dark along with the constituents and civilians they have sworn to represent. This theory is also an incredibly popular one, with one major study conducted by CBS News between the 18th and 20th of December, finding that of the over 2,200 American adults sampled in this study, nearly 80% feel that the government is hiding the truth and keeping information about the drones away from the public.
Overall, the drone invasion of New Jersey and other states so far remains a mystery, and successfully caught the world's attention. While a number of such cases could simply be products of copycat drone operators looking to capitalize on the now global drone hysteria, or a potential for an adversary, or perhaps something more secretive and unnerving being kept under wraps, the drone invasion of 2024 has left an everlasting mark. Eventually, this whole ordeal might just turn out to be a prank, or may continue to remain a mystery for the foreseeable future. But in closing, I would like to mention a quote from a film that I feel is especially relevant. In 1951, a film was released titled The Thing from Another World, which would later be famously remade by John Carpenter in 1982. Like Orson Welles' adaptation of War of the Worlds, The Thing from Another World was a bold adaptation of the 1938 novella Who Goes There?, about an Antarctic science expedition confronted by and stalked by a menacing alien creature from outer space. After the team seems to have defeated the creature by electrocuting it, the expedition crew survives only for them to grab a hold of a microphone, make contact with the rest of the world, and hauntingly say, "Watch the skies everywhere. Watch the skies."